So this is the Remette Rhino, the new $55 knife offering from Remette Knives, the makers of the Swordfish. And since this is my first review of a Remette knife and my first look at Remette as a brand, I guess I'll get some quick thoughts out of the way of what Remette is and what I see them doing now and probably into the future. Possibly into the future. I'm not going to claim knowledge on anything. So what I'm seeing with the Remette is that there are the expensive knives and then there are the cheaper, more accessible knives for anyone who might be interested or have general curiosity to use and to test out. It's almost like Magurin in many aspects, something I'll get back to soon. But Magurin makes a very high-end, very expensive knives, and then they also make very cheap, accessible, easy to use and to work and to abuse knives that really anyone can go for and to purchase. So this knife is going to be $55 on our website. If you toss on a coupon with that, you can get it for even cheaper. So this knife is very, very cheap. And with that, you get 14C28N steel. You get 3 variations, I believe. This one, currently we have the green micarta and the black micarta, is of course completely blacked out. And then you have 3 official opening mechanisms. You have the thumb stud, in a sense, but I'll get back to this thing in a second too. You have, obviously, you have the stud, you have this one here, and then you also have this front flick here as well with this little channel. And this gets to my first thought on this knife design at the moment, is that it's not the easiest to get to this little channel since the little thumb stud is right here. But if you decide to use it, it's really easy to use and it's nice and crisp. This knife for $55 has a nice little punch to it. Like, I was really impressed. And then using this little sort of button lock mechanism, it actually has what Vostese has been up to, where it can line lock in the back, and that's your open and closing mechanism. It doesn't have the actual button mechanism that, say, like a button lock Elementum might have, for example. Now let's get down to the feel of this knife, because obviously this knife has a very little contoured handle for the thumb where they want you to put your thumb underneath here. There's not much room up top. It's actually a little bit uncomfortable to put your hand up here where the blade's going to be, because obviously you'll probably cut yourself. So holding the knife down here and other part of my thumb up or holding here, it feels really good in my hand. This little groove contours nicely to my finger, and then the others can grip cleanly, and I can hold the knife with a decent amount of control one way or the other. And looking at this knife and the size of these knives and even the price point of these knives, this is where I get back to Magurin. The Magurin Galati, also just about $55, and size-wise, these knives are very similar. I'll actually put these in my hand so it's even easier to see. And weight-wise, they feel quite similar as well. So that creates a very interesting comparison. The first comparison obviously being that they have different opening mechanisms, and depending on how you feel about them, then you might defer to one or to the other. But footprint-wise, they are quite similar, with the pod clip being on one side of the micarta handle, with you being able to use a lanyard on the backs of these knives, and then with their actual open profiles being so very similar in size. All that being said, interesting little comparisons. Let me know if you have a preference to Magurin or to Remette in the comments down below, but back to this knife. Also, as a fun, final little detail, they also have the same steel type. So, isn't that interesting? So holding this knife and feeling the pod clip in my hand, the shape of the pod clip here fits nicely with my fingers. I do like this format quite a bit. And then the actual point of the pod clip sits nicely in between, and so I don't feel it poking in my hands at all hot spots wise. Can't feel really anything that might be of concern. Maybe this point right back here, depending on the size of your hand, if it might stick into your pinky at all. Now there's this little lanyard point back here, and depending on how people might feel about it, with it being rather high up, they might like it, the feel of it, the placement of it, they might not like it. Your mileage may vary. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Now, this point looks almost to me like I want to I stand corrected. Make that 4 opening methods. Now that we've talked about some of the materials, the opening and closing methods, the ways to hold this knife, how it feels in the hand, let's talk about how it feels as far as build goes. So overall, this knife feels nice and compact. The actual frame of it feels good. If I shake it about, if I, let's say, back whack it, it feels solid, and it won't feel like it have any, let's say, lock on me, and the detent of it feels good when I'm opening and when I'm closing it. So for $55, I've been very happy with the feel of this knife and the quality that I'm getting. Now it's time for one of the final sections of the video, and that is about sound. If I was going to describe this knife in a word, it would be muted, almost. The sounds this knife makes are pleasant, for sure, but they aren't loud, they're not bombastic, they're not anything crisp or crazy, like, let's say, like the sharpness that the Gladdy has in the opening and in the closing. So if this knife catches your fancy, if any of the opening mechanisms, the materials, the look, the sound of the thing, if anything about this knife interests you, let me know what you think about it, or what you don't even like about it, in the comments down below. And I thank you very much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.